What is insurability like now in California or Southern California when you buy a house? Insurance has become a big issue for buyers in Los Angeles or in Southern California. As you know, in recent years, we've had a lot of wildfires, floods, natural disasters, which has really created the insurance prices to skyrocket quite substantially. And just last week, State Farm announced they are no longer going to insure properties here in California. I was not surprised. I did a couple of interviews for different media outlets talking about that because I know the last 5-6 years, I've noticed a big change in insurance. First of all, in the past where maybe you could get an insurance policy for $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, today it's substantially more. If you live in the hills or want to buy property in the hills of Los Angeles, whether it's Beverly Hills, Sunset Hills, Palisades, basically anything north of Sunset Boulevard is considered a hillside property, which are all considered fire zones. So anything up in the hills are fire zones. And since the Bel Air fire a few years ago, it's been much more difficult to get insurance up in the hills. So before you might have 5 or 6 options, today you may have only 1 or 2 options. And as an example, recently there was a house we closed escrow on. The buyers almost decided to back out of the deal. $17 million house. When they got their insurance quote, it was $280,000 a year just for fire and liability insurance. Earthquake insurance was about $100,000 a year. So you're talking about almost $400,000 a year just for fire, liability, and earthquake insurance, which is a pretty substantial amount. Now, I know in other parts of the country you can buy a house for that, right? But this is LA. So $17 million house, $400,000 worth of insurance. It's kind of the price you have to pay to live in that beautiful, $17 million house. Can you imagine Jay-Z and Beyonce just bought that $200 million house in Malibu? I'm really curious who the insurance company is and what their premium is. It's got to be $1 million to $2 million a year for insurance for that property, especially in Malibu. So it's just important to know insurance costs have gone up 4 to 5 times more than they were 4 or 5 years ago. It is harder to get insurance today. So sometimes you might have to have 2 or 3 insurance carriers because sometimes they'll say, okay, we'll insure your $20 million property, but our limit is $10 million. You have to get another company for $5 million, another one for $5 million. So you might end up having 2 or 3 different policies for your fire and liability because some insurance carriers don't want to carry that burden and risk. It's a fire risk. There's the earthquake risk. There's the cost of construction, which has gone up substantially. That's another reason why they've decided not to or don't want to insure a lot of properties in California. So just realize as a buyer or a property owner in California or Southern California, everything is more expensive. But that's just part of the cost of living here. I was born and raised in this town. I've traveled all over the world, but honestly, there's nowhere I'd rather live than here in Beverly Hills in LA in Southern California. It's a great place to live, and the extra cost is worth it because it's such a wonderful lifestyle and great place to live and enjoy the wonderful lifestyle, the sunshine and the beautiful weather, and just all the wonderful wonders of this particular area of the country.